You want to learn Blender Octane? Obviously, you click on this video. What I promise here is by the end of this video, you will have Blender Octane set up on your computer. We're going to download it. We're going to set up viewports. We're going to set up color workspace. We're going to set up environments. All of that will be set up and done by the end of this video. Who am I? My name is Patrick LeVar. I've been using Blender Octane for the last 2 years, but this last year I have been documenting all my learnings and posting them here on YouTube because when I first started, there wasn't a lot of material about Blender Octane and I spent many hours of frustration trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. I'm saving you all of those hours of frustration by helping you guys out with videos like this on Blender Octane. Now, if you're not familiar with Octane, what is Octane? Let's quickly look at what is Octane. Octane Render is a third-party render add-on for Blender. It is known for its ability and its efficiency producing high-quality images. Octane Render was the first commercially available unbiased path tracer that fully utilizes GPU, allowing users to modify scenes close to real time without speed blah 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 of CPU rendering. Octane Render includes a built-in AI upsampler and in-camera imager. That's basically what Blender Octane is. What's the plan? So the plan is we're first going to go to the website, you're going to log in, you're going to download it, you're going to install it, we're going to set up the proper color space for Octane because it's not like Cycles, it's a little bit different, and then we're going to set up your world environment, get the viewport set up, and by the end of this video you should be good to go. Also, at the end of the video I'll shoot you guys a couple of videos that you can go to if you really want to start making something right now. Have a project, make it, and render out something by the end of the day in Octane. Enough of the jibber jabber, let's get straight into the video. All right guys, so I'm going to walk you through how to install Blender Octane. This is going to be a little bit more lengthier than some of my other videos. I'm going to go step by step, so by the time you're done with this, you will have it on your computer and it installed and up and running. I do not have any other version of Blender on my computer at the moment. If you still want to keep your vanilla Blender, that's no biggie. I would just recommend probably installing to a different hard drive or just kind of make sure they're not ending up in the same Blender folder, okay? Keep them kind of out of in their own folders. First thing first, when you come to the website, this is what you're going to see. And a lot of people go straight to downloads. We're not going to go to downloads. We're going to go to shop. And once we get into shop, we're going to go to the free trial. You click free trial right here. We do not want Octane X. We want Octane Prime free tier. Okay, click on that. And here it is, Octane Render Prime free tier for CUDA. And these are the ones that's available for free: Blender, DAZ, Unity, and Unreal Engine. Free for personal and commercial use. Terms and conditions. So here are the restrictions that are on this. Use of this software is available only while online, connecting via the internet to the Octane licensing server. So what I've learned is basically it connects on just to make sure to check your license and you're okay to go. And then that's pretty much the reason why you need to be online. Only a limited subsets of plugins are available. See above. Do not know what they mean by plugins because the plugins that I typically use with the Blender, they're all okay. I don't have any issues. Octane Render Standalone is not available in the Prime tier. We're not worried about that. Octane Render Offline USB dongle is not supported. So I mean, if you had a little special dongle USB, you plug it in, and I guess you don't have to be connected to the internet. That doesn't apply to us. A maximum of 1 GPU is available for rendering. Okay, so if you run multiple GPUs, you can only use 1 GPU. That is one of the downsides. Other than that, if you want to run multiple GPUs, you will need to go back up and get Octane X and do a paid version. No networking rendering available in the free tier. So if you have multiple machines and you got them all networked together and you got this render farm, you won't be able to use this. You'll have to go and pay. After that, what you're going to need to do is make sure you have an account with Otoy. You're going to need to log into your account or make an account. It's very easy. It's free. Just do your email, blah, blah, blah. You know the deal. And once you are logged in and your name is up here, you're good to go. So what we're going to do is click on try now. Again, if you're not logged in, it's going to send you to a different page. You're going to have to sign in. So make sure you sign into your account before you hit that try now. Now we're inside of the Octane Prime tier application completed. Mine is all ready to go. You have successfully applied for your Octane Prime free tier offer. Now, Octane Prime for Blender, as of me, I'm updating this as this video is updated. It is at 2004-04-03. This is their version, their more stable version. Important, you need to download install and run both Octane Server and Octane Blender Edition in order to achieve Octane for Blender. If you want to see the manual for further instructions, you can click on this here and it will take you into their manual. And unfortunately, the manual is really not up to date. It's okay, but that's why I have a Blender Octane community, because this wasn't enough. Okay, what I want to do is we're going to download the Blender Octane Edition. This is a standalone version of Blender Octane. I'm not going to do the plugin version. This is the standalone. Again, we're going to do that. We're going to go ahead and just click on that and let that download. And then I also need to download the Octane Server Prime. Doesn't matter. Each time you upgrade or you change to a different version or they release a different version, you have to also update the server. On my previous version that I uninstalled, I have to download the new server for the new version. Okay, so they work in pairs. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and download that too. Now that I got that downloaded here in my browser, it's already kicking up an error where it is basically saying we do not trust this file. Again, and depending on what your virus stuff is, you can see here I have these errors. So if I bring up my file, in my download file, I have these two unconfirmed right here files and they don't even show up. Like, it doesn't work. So make sure you turn off all your security stuff in order to make these okay. And for me, I just click on these three buttons here and I go ahead and say keep, and I just go ahead and show more, keep it anyways. And that's just because, I don't know, some metadata on the back end, probably that's not whatever. I don't know. So I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on both of them. Keep, say okay, keep anyways. Now it should be completed, and then boom. And then now we have a .exe file, and wait for the other one to kick in. Boom. Now they both are okay. And there's a .exe file. So now I'm just going to go ahead and open up the location. And I have my two files right there, my Prime server and my Octane Edition. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna double click on the Blender Octane Edition. And then I guess, do you want to allow this application unknown publisher to make changes to my device? Yes, I do. Like, I wouldn't do this if it wasn't from Octane website. Do not, if you get it like from a GitHub or somewhere else, do not install it. Make sure it's from the Octane website. That's the only reason why I trusted this. Here it is, installation, Blender Octane Edition. Setup will go through, and again, here is my edition 23.1, 28.3, whatever, blah, 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 blah. I'm gonna go ahead and hit next. Most people know how to do this, install, I agree. Now this is where you can go, if you already have a Blender Octane on your hard drive and it's going to put it in the C program drive, maybe you might want to separate it and put it on a different hard drive. When I did run two versions of Octane, I would have one on a separate hard drive and one on a different hard drive, just so they both weren't on the same hard drive and in the same folder, because you might get some weirdness happening between them. I'm okay because I'm only using Blender Octane, so I'm going to get okay and I'm going to let it do its thing. Finished uninstall. Finished Blender Octane Edition installation. Finish. Now next we need to install in the Octane Prime server. Again, that uses to check our license and make sure we're okay and it's a proper account. Again, I'm gonna hit okay. This is gonna go a lot quicker because it's a way smaller file. It's really small, so it should go by really quick. Hit next, hit accept. Again, I'm just gonna leave that in the same place. All right, boom, that is finished. So we are all finished with that. We've got everything installed. So now let's go ahead, and that's all you need to do from the website. Make sure you still keep your password and keep everything, because if you need to update again, this is where you come and update. Again, sometimes it says expired and you're gonna need to update. The only time I ever need to update it again is when I do an update. Like I'll come back and check just to see where this number's at and like if there's a new version. So the last time I did it was in January, so this is the April version, so that's why I'm updating. We got that. We can close that out. Make sure you're connected to the internet. Go into your programs and you should see right here Blender Octane Edition. I'm gonna go ahead and fire that up, and you can see here on the top Blender 4.0. Again, it's not available for 4.2 at the moment of this release of this video. And the first thing first, what most people do is they try to fire the render up immediately and think that it's going to be, Octane. Technically, it's not, because if we look here, we're in Eevee still. What we need to do is we need to switch into Octane. We scroll here. Here is Octane. Now, if I click it, and then again, if I hit render, nothing's happening. Everything is clear. If you look right here, it says no render service at this address. Okay, so what we need to do is stop that. And what you need to do is make sure your server is turned on. What I did here is I quickly went into my programs, and then I literally just went over to Blender, and you'll see Blender Octane Edition. Come in here, and then I right click on it and I say pin to taskbar. So everything is right here on the bottom, so I don't have to dig into this all the time. And it's the same thing here. You're gonna tap in, you're gonna go Octane, and here's Octane Server Prime. I just pinned it to the taskbar, so I don't have to do this each time. So here they are. Right now, you're gonna need to turn on this server. You click on that, and that's going to activate the Octane server so it can connect your license and make sure you're all good to go. You click here, and you can see here's my little Octane logo, and it says right now that it is deactivated. It is not activated. So what I need to do is I'm just gonna click on that. I think double click. All right, and for you guys, since it's the first time you're signing in, it's gonna ask you again for your Otoy password and your Otoy account information. Go ahead and put that account information on and hit activate. It's not doing that for me because I've already done it before, so that's the only reason why it's not asking me. It's not a first install for me. But your page will look something like this, and then you will have the it will have a slot to say put in your account information. Boom, you should be okay. Once this turns green, Octane is activated to use. Okay, so you're all good. Green is good. Now also people freak out. They're like, hey, it says expired on May 13th 2024. It doesn't expire. I don't know why it says that. Trust me, I've had Octane on my computer once for a year and it never had issues with it. Again, it just says that. I don't know why, but it does. But it is free. Don't worry about it. You can continue to use it after this expiration date. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit close and make sure now if I hover over it, now it says activated. That means we're okay to go. We come back here and we go ahead and fire up the render. The first initial time, it might take a little bit of time. We look at everything is black. Why is everything black? Because our world setting is still set up for cycles, and we need to switch it over for Octane. We also need to set up our render kernels here. Okay, if we look here, our kernel right now, we don't have anything set up. Basically, to get everything set up, what we're going to do is go to our render kernel next. So I'm going to go to layout. I'm going to pull this open here so we can see, and I'm going to click on this right here. And if you look down, we have a couple of extra things added here. We have this Octane render AOVs. This is where we get our passes for compositing and like VFX stuff. Then we also scroll down, we have Octane kernels. This is going to be our what we use to switch our render kernels. And then we also have Octane composite. This is where we do compositing inside of Octane. So we're going to go to the Octane kernel here first, okay? And then what I'm going to do here in this kernel here, what we're going to do is you can literally just press right here, quick add node tree. Boom. There it is. It sets us up with the render kernel, but this is not the one that we want. This is a direct lighting kernel. Now, I'm not going to get into what all the kernels do. That's what my community's for, and we get more in depth and stuff like that. So if you're thinking about wanting to go more in depth, you can definitely take a look at that. For right now, I'm just going to get you guys set up with the basics and the path tracing one. That is what we want. So what all I'm going to do is grab this, and I'm going to go ahead and just delete that. Then I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to go to Octane kernels right here. And then we want path tracing kernels, right? Or some people even use the photon, but typically most of us all use path tracing kernels. The Cinema 4D guys, this is what we're basically using. I'm going to take this kernel out and plug it into the kernel, and then that's pretty much all we need to do in here. Again, those other kernels, that will be for another different video. From here, now we should be almost good to go. If we come back over here, now if you notice on this side over here, it's filled in now. It says Octane kernel, path tracing, and here's all of our samples. Here's our max sample. Let me go ahead and pull this out. Here's all of our samples, right? So diffuse, specular, this is everything, right? We're ready to go. Now, what we're gonna do is see if we can see anything now. Let's go ahead and hit record, the render button. And again, we still don't see anything. Many people are like, dude, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It works. Again, like I said previously, we need to change the lighting, the world lighting to Octane. It's still sitting in cycles. Again, if I was to come back here and open this back up, let's switch this over to the shading tab. And look, there it is. This is the corporate. Well, one, we already have materials, but these are cycles materials. They don't work with Octane. We want to switch this to world, and there it is again. We don't need that. Let's go ahead and just, what I'm going to actually do is just going to press up here, press X, and then we're going to press new. Now look at it. It changed. It gave us a whole different setup here. It's actually giving us a texture environment. So let's go ahead and see if we can hit render now. Boom, I hit render. There is the world. We're finally seeing stuff, but we're still not there just yet. Okay, check it out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this texture environment here, and I'm going to go ahead and straight load in an HDRI right off the back to show you guys how. All I'm going to do is press shift, and I'm going to go image. Actually, I'm going to go IM, and we want an RGB image. Okay, take our RGB image, plug that into the texture. I'm just gonna load in an HDRI, anything will work. All right, boom, there it is. I've got an HDRI loaded up. I'm gonna close some of this stuff out here so we can just get a nice clean viewport. And there it is. But wait, we're still not there. Why does everything look blown out and like overly exposed? Because we're not in the right color space for Octane. Octane does not need a color space. It wants it to be raw. What we're going to do is click on our render tab, scroll all the way down here to the bottom, all the way down to color management, flip this down, and you can see here it's set to RGB AGX none. Well, we don't need that. What we need to do is go to view transform and select raw. Now this is what we're supposed to be seeing. This is the proper flow for us. That looks cool. Now we've got our light and everything set up properly, but we still got a few other things we need to suss out. Now, I showed you here quickly how we can set up our HDRI. This is basically the HDRI setup. For example, maybe you don't want to see this background. You just don't want to see this background. What we can do here is, you look here, we have environment, visible environment. Okay, so what I'm going to do is grab this texture node that we brought in. I'm going to be Shift D, duplicate it down, and I'm going to go ahead and plug that into here. And now we should see a white background, but we don't see anything. And the reason why is we need to tell this node, hey, I want you to be my back plate. Click on that. Now we're seeing everything. The way we can control this, and then we can change the color. And there, that's our back plate. This is being visible. Again, if we turn that off, we're seeing our HDRI. It's the same thing with reflections and refractions. If I had glass or something, I want this HDRI to show in it, I leave it unchecked. But if I had glass and I want this background to also reflect in that, I need to make sure these are all checked. Now, everything in the environment is going to reflect and show this green background. So that's how we do that. One other thing while we're still setting the world light, if you don't want to use an HDRI, maybe we just want to use a sun. So what we can do here, if I go ahead and take these, and I'm just going to disconnect them for a moment, move them down out of the way. If I come in here and press Shift A, and then I'm going to go to Octane Environment, and here I have daylight environment. Now, like you see, it's this bigger node here. If I go ahead and plug this and plug it into environment, now I have like basically a sky system, right? And matter of fact, I can actually bring in the Nishida sky system that we have in cycles. If I come in here and if you scroll this open a little bit, right here where it says daylight mode, right now we're using Octane daylight mode. You can come over here and boom, there are different ones. And here's the Nishida one. Boom, there it is. And again, we've got all these controls here. If you wanted to make some changes, again, the sky, there it is. Okay, that's working. Then remember, if we were using something and we wanted to have it reflect this sky in background, that means I need to also tell it, hey, I want you to use this as my visible environment. I want it to see in my backplate, I want it to be in my reflections, and I want it to be in my refractions, and that will show up. Okay, so that's important to make sure you do. Or if vice versa, you don't want that, but you want the sky system, again, we just come over here, check backplate, boom. Now I can come over here and I can move my sun around. There's my sun. I can move that around and things like that. Let's throw in a ground plane here just so we can get a shadow. And there you go. Now you've got to be able to move the sun around. And if you keep scrolling to the side, the time of day changes. Now we got the long shadows of golden hour. Check it out. That's super cool, right? And you just keep going around, you keep going around. And the opposite, right? So I'm not going to go all in deep on the environment node texture shade. Again, that's something that a different video, but we'll get into it. But this is just the basics here. Play with this, experiment, and figure out what you want to do with that. So that's basically how we can get our world set up here. For the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and throw back in my HDRI. Again, just plug that out, throw that into the environment. I can take this guy and I can just delete him so we don't have a visible environment. And there we are, back to the beginning, okay? All right, guys, so now we're inside of my setup file. This file will be available on the Gumroad. If you guys are interested in it, you can download that and basically be all set up like this. I have my render preview over here, workspace, my shader setup right here. A couple of other things. Shading is set up is a little bit different. And then I do have pretty much everything else that is needed here. But if you guys are interested in that, you can download that. So what I'm going to do is show you a couple of plugins that you really should basically have, especially when you're using Blender Octane. It really helps just the workflow. The first one going to be is Octane Node Wrangler, the Node Wrangler version of Octane for Octane. What I'm going to do is scroll into my preferences, and if I come over here and I'm going to go Octane, and you'll quickly see here, this is another one plugin here, Octane Tools, but it's not working with this new version for some reason. So I guess they might need to make an update, but this is a really powerful tool, but it's not working. If we look here, I have right here, Node Wrangler, custom built for Octane. We're gonna go ahead and take that one on. We want that. I'll have the link down in the description for all of these plugins where you can download them. This is a definitely mandatory one. Also basically have Power Save, which is right here. You wanted to, oh man, this one saved my butt so many times, guys. Trust me. Power Save, even if you're using vanilla Blender, I would still recommend having this one on here. Power Save, because Blender Octane does crash just like anything else does, right? So those are my two mandatory ones that I really should have on there. Okay, so I'll have my Power Save on. I will have my Octane Node Wrangler version. The Octane Node Wrangler version, if I come in here and just add in, for example, a cube, then we scroll this over here a little bit, add in a material. Let me go ahead and fire up the render. I already do have in my startup scene, I already have an HDR baked in, and you can clearly see we're getting a little bit of the reflection of the HDRI in the top of the cube here. Let's make the cube a different color. There it is. You can see that reflection. And remember, I showed you in the past video how if you wanted to see that, if you don't want to see that reflection of the HDRI, that means I just come over here and change this reflection to black. Now we're seeing the blackness and it's reflecting onto the cube. Okay. So there's that. Matter of fact, we can just go ahead and kill that for now. And there it is. With the Node Wrangler 8 for Octane, which is really nice. If I come in here, press shift, and I'll go add in a noise texture. Right here, I'm just going to go into add a noise texture. I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. And already you can see if I hold down shift and alt and then right mouse drag over and release, boom, and I plug this into the albedo. Super quick and easy. It's already working. If I wanted just to, for example, preview this, I would hit shift and alt. Actually, sorry, I will hit control alt, and then I can do my node preview just like we would in any Octane. There's that works out really nice. Let's say, for example, I have a material that is made for cycles. Let me bring something in made for cycles. I quickly just downloaded Blender Kit, and I just downloaded a rock, and I'm gonna quickly show you how we can convert this. Here is our material. We have this cycles material, which needs to be converted over to Octane, which is really easy. Here, we just need to make sure, for example, we have our displacement plugged into the proper thing here. Displacement, normal map is in the normal, roughness into the roughness, metallic, and base color. As long as you have a basic setup like this, you should be okay to convert materials. Literally, once you're in the material tab and on the object, click on materials, and then you'll see this little tab here, converters. Click on that, boom. Convert to Octane, only the selected material, hit OK. Now it converted it over to Octane here. And again, you just check make sure everything is still cool here. We should have our rock here, and let's open this up. There is our albedo. It is plugged into the albedo. And here it is, metallic in the metallic, vice versa. And you scroll all the way down here. Texture displacement is a little bit different in Octane. We don't have to have things subdivided, which is really nice. We can just have a magic of Octane. We got a displacement node, and it's set very low here. Boom, here it is. Here is our rock, and then our rock height, which they were using for their displacement, and then the normals here. That it looks like everything is good to go. What I will do is come in here, tab in here, and then fire up the render. And boom, there is our rock. There is our rock converted from cycles material over to Octane. Again, this only works with just a basic setup. Like if everything is, especially if you're using PBR materials, it works out pretty well. Like this guy was a Octane, a cycles guy, and I just literally, all the maps were in the proper slots and they were named properly, and it converted over very easily. When things start getting to complex node setups, it's not going to work that easily. You'll have to kind of like almost rebuild them from scratch. But if it's just a general thing with PBR materials, you should be okay to go. It also the same thing if I wanted to set up a PBR material very easily. For example, here is my cube. I'll click on my cube, hit new material. Then I'll come over here, click on this, hold down Control Shift T, and then we'll go ahead and load in our material that we want to use. Here I have, again, color. I'm going to select color. I'm going to select my height. I'm going to select my normal roughness, and then just hit import. and bada bing, it does the same thing. It connects everything up. Everything should be good. Sometimes you just need to check about our legacy gamut here when you're bringing in materials like this. This is set to 2.2. This should be 1. And everything should be 1 except for the albedo. The albedo should be 2.2 and everything else should be okay. Then I typically will come in here and I'll change this from Octane to GGX Energy Preserve. And then we jump back over, hit render. Boom, there it is. We've got like this cardboard box material on the cube here. Super easy, ready to go. And it's also easy to set up our assets. Maybe you had assets from Cycles. The materials will need to be converted over to Octane. Unfortunately, you know, it doesn't really bother me because I've done the work and I've already converted some of my assets. Let me quickly show you how to bring in assets. If I go to my asset library and scroll over here, asset library, here is the default one that comes with Blender. If I wanted to bring in my own, of course, what I'll do is, if you don't know how to do this, you go to your preferences. You scroll down to file paths here, asset library. I'm going to make a new one. I'm going to press that and then you'll go to wherever your file is saved at and hit add asset library. And then once you do that, go ahead and make sure you save your preferences, close that out. Now, if I come in here, go to all, and then here it is, School Material Database Volume 2. And this is all the materials that my community have made. We do a monthly type of update where basically any materials that anybody makes in the community, we share them together and we make an asset library file in which we update monthly. This is basically all the materials here that we've made in the past month, and a couple of other node materials like a separate RGB, a roughness generator node that just generates different noise patterns for roughness, some other specialty stuff that we've done. For example, if I take this car paint and just drag this over, again, these are all Octane materials. If I click on my cube here, and then we will jump back over into the shader tab. Here is the material that I just dumped on here, this basic car paint material. Bada bing, bada boom. There it is. Super nice and super clean. Boom. I think Tim thinks so too. He's got a great smile on his face, right? So that's that. That's how we do that. So the asset library still works. And then, like I said, again, I have this garbage asset that I bought, which it was originally for Cycles. And if I go back over to my asset library and load that up also, you can see that how this works here. I'm going to go ahead and jump back into my preferences. I'm going to add a new database and I'm going to jump into where I saved it. Then I'm going to go here and select it. Here it is. Boom, here is my trash asset, which was originally a Cycles asset library. But what I've done, just like over in my free time, I've literally just came in and converted the materials. They all had image maps. Like I showed you before, they had a roughness and a normal and albedo. And all I've done was just over time did that same process, click on it, go over to materials and then convert option. And then boom, now I have my whole garbage asset converted over to Octane, which was really nice because it's still, I have it for Cycles and I also do have it for Octane. If you do have assets that you made or things that you use inside of Cycles, you know, image map based setup or a PBR setup, you're still gonna be able to use them. And again, if it's something a little bit more complex, then yes, you're gonna have to totally rebuild that, which again, in the community, we work together to try to rebuild some of those. Like right now, we're working to rebuild some of the grass wall assets, putting those together for us because we know that it takes time to do that, and it's better to have more people working on one project than just by yourself. There's that. All right, guys, hope that helps out. Make sure you save your default setup file so you don't have to do this whole process over and over and over. But if you guys want to learn more, you want to get more value out of this, check this out. I've got this free guide here. It's going to be posted on my Gumroad. It's free. You can download it on there, and it's going to walk you through how to build up this little keyboard thing that I've got here. We're going to texture it. We're going to model it. I'm not like this fantastic modeler, so it's very basic. It's very simple extruding and insetting. The main goal is to figure out how to use materials, put all what we just set up into real world learning. I do some UV exporting. I show you how to use images to get, you know, displacement and lots of things. Take a look at the course. It's down inside of there. And if you guys are really serious about Blender Octane, I do have an Octane community here, which we go through. We have monthly challenges, online courses. I mean, not online courses. There's lots of courses inside of here. You can get one-on-one access with me. I do private streams inside of there, private one-on-one line calls, Zoom calls and stuff like that. Links down in the description. Keep rendering. It's the only way you'll get better, guys. I hope to see you guys in one of those classes. Peace.